Hello. In the previous video on effective study habits, we learned that effective studying involves many steps, starting from motivating oneself to study, then managing time effectively, reading text material, learning and remembering it, and finally writing down a good exam paper. In the previous video, we learned certain tips to increase your motivation, to deal with procrastination, and we learned about an effective reading method known as SQ4R. Now in this video, we are going to learn about three important study skills, that is learning, memory and writing in exams. Let us begin with learning. There are various ways we can learn and study text materials. 1. Verbal method. This method involves speaking or writing. For example, one might create notes of what they have read or write long essays on what they have learnt. Some creative ways to use this method are creating flashcards or sticky notes to identify main points or terms or writing down descriptions of a diagram. 2. Visual method. Visual method involves the use of pictures or images. One can create charts, flow charts, diagrams and figures of what one has read. Drawing mind maps or concept maps is also found to be very useful to remember the main concepts in the text. On your screen, you can see an example of a concept map of learning theories. 3. Auditory method. Some students prefer to learn by listening to the information. Listening to the recording of a lecture or reading text aloud and recording it are good examples of this method. One can join groups to study and discuss concepts together, or putting information in a rhyme or tune are also examples of auditory methods. 4. Action method. This method involves physical activity. There are people who use movements of their own body to learn and remember information. For example, walking around while studying, listening to the recordings of lectures or notes while exercising, or making three-dimensional model of the topic. Students may have preferences for a particular study method or may find it useful to use combination of these methods to study. The next step in effective study habits is memory. Remembering what you have read and learnt is a very crucial process in a student's life. Many people, not just students, struggle with remembering important things. Mugging up or cramming are not effective ways of remembering. Understanding the meaning of the text material will help you to remember it in a better way. Also, there are many memory tricks that can be used to remember things. Even memory experts use different strategies to show their amazing skills of remembering unusual amounts of information. A memory trick or strategy to help people remember is called mnemonics. Mnemonic is a Greek word which means memory. On your screen, you can see some common example of mnemonics. 1. Linking. Linking is associating or linking chunks of information together. This is also called chaining. Linking method consists of developing a story or image that connects together pieces of information you need to remember. Each item leads you to recall the next item. For example, if you want to remember a list of planets in the solar system, you can create a story like this. Mercury wanted to be friends with Venus, but she told him that Earth is her best friend. Therefore, she needs to ask her if she will be okay with being friend of Mercury. When she told Earth about Mercury, Earth told her that if Venus become friends of Mercury, then she also has to become friend of her brother Mars. You can continue this story by linking other planets to the story. This technique may sound like a lot, But once a story is created, it is easy to remember names of all planets in correct order. You can try it. 2. The second mnemonic is the peg word method. The peg method is an especially useful mnemonic for remembering sequence information. It first requires that you memorize the list on your screen. 1 is bun, 2 is shoe, 3 is tree, 4 is door, 5 is hive, 6 are bricks, 7 is heaven, 8 is gate, 9 is line, 10 is hen. These are called peg words. You can associate the new information that you want to remember to these pegs. For example, you want to remember parts of the nervous system. You might picture the brain stuck in a bun and the spinal cord growing out of the shoe and the peripheral nerves as branches of a tree. This method allows you to recall both the specific piece of information and the correct order in which it needs to be placed. The third mnemonic is the method of low key. Low key means location. In this technique, first you picture a familiar room or series of rooms or a house. Each information that you want to remember is then placed at different locations of the room. For example, imagine your house. If you want to remember monocular cues of depth perception, you can imagine placing first cue or its image, that is linear perspective, at the main door of the house, then the second cue, relative size, at the first right hand side window of your house, third cue, overlap, at the cupboard in your house. Thus, to remember these cues, you have to just take a mental walk of your house. The fourth mnemonic is acronyms or acrostics. These are typically the most familiar type of mnemonic strategies. Acronyms use a simple formula of a letter to represent each word or phrase that needs to be remembered. For example, think of NBA, which stands for National Basketball Association, or UNESCO, which is United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Or if you are trying to memorize 4 different types of dementia, you might use this acronym FLAV, which would represent frontotemporal, Lewy body, Alzheimer's and vascular. An acrostic uses the same concept as the acronym, except that instead of forming a new word, it generates a sentence that helps you remember the information. An often used acrostic in math class is "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." This acrostic mnemonic represents the order of operations in algebra and stand for please, P stand for parenthesis, excuse, E stand for exponents, my, M stands for multiplication, D division, A addition and Sally, S subtraction. The next mnemonic is rhymes. Rhyming words can be used as a mnemonic to help us learn and recall information. Phrases like 30 days has September, April, June and November, all the rest have 31 except February alone, sticks in our memories because we have heard it multiple times, but also because of the rhyming within it. The next mnemonic is music. You can remember certain information by setting it to tunes. A well known example is the ABC song, but you can remember anything with this technique, like the names of the states in India, science cycles, math equations and more. The next mnemonic is chunking. Chunking or grouping information is a mnemonic strategy that works by organizing information into more easily learned groups, phrases, words or numbers. Phone numbers, social security numbers and credit card numbers are organized using chunking. For example, memorizing the following number 4, 7, 8, 9, 5, 3, 2, 8, 4, 6, 3. will likely to take a fair amount of effort. However, if it is chunked like this 4789, 532, 8463, it becomes easier to remember. The last step in effective study habits is writing an exam paper. Now this is the last step of your study. When you have read the text material, created your notes, use any method to learn it and remember it, the final skill you require is writing or presenting it well in the paper. Here are some tips to write the perfect answer that will get you full marks. 1. Read all questions carefully. The first thing that you must be doing when you get your question paper is to read the whole paper. Don't worry about the time in doing so. Understand each question and find which ones you are thorough with and which ones you are not. Start with the one that you know clearly and leave the difficult ones for last. 2. Choose questions wisely. For questions that have a choice, take a minute to clearly understand the choices. Remember, a hasty decision here could cost you a lot of marks. 3. Plan the time. Create a rough timeline of the exam paper in your head. You should be assigning more time to long answer questions than short answer questions. 4. Good handwriting. A good handwriting can do wonders. It is the first impression about your paper and it has to be the best one. It is not really necessary to have beautiful handwriting. It is more than enough if your paper is neat with margins, proper spacing, do underline titles and important points. 5. Structure your answer. Before you actually write an answer, structure the answer in your mind. An essay question will need a different structure when compared to short answer questions. However, the introduction should make your point clear. For an essay, the last paragraph should be the concluding part. Elaboration, comparisons, examples, etc. can come in the middle. Draw figures and diagrams whenever necessary. 6. Review your answers thoroughly. After you have finished your answer, go through it once and check if you have missed a point. Grammatical and spelling mistakes should also be corrected upon review. 7. Attempt all the questions. Attempting all the questions is necessary even if you don't really know the answer. The question might be wrong or out of the syllabus, or your vague answer could possibly be the right one. You won't lose anything answering it. Now let us reflect on what we have learned so far. Take a paper and pen and answer the following questions. State whether the study technique is effective or ineffective study habit. A. Creating a mind map or concept map to learn new information. B. Using the first letters of the words to remember and making a word out of these letters. C. Mugging up the information to be remembered. D. Underlining important points in your answer paper. E. Starting writing answers immediately after you get a question paper. Now check your answers. A. Creating a mind map or concept map to learn new information is an effective study habit. B. Using the first letters of the words to remember and making a word out of these letters is an effective study habit. C. Mugging up the information to be remembered is not an effective study habit. D. Underlining important points in your answer paper is an effective study habit. E. Starting writing answers immediately after you get a question paper is not an effective study habit. Thus, in this video, we learnt 3 important study habits, namely learning, memory and writing an exam paper. I hope this is useful information and will help you in studying effectively and getting good grades. All the very best for your study and exams.